Richard Cloutier Reports with guest host Greg Macklin on 680 CJOB.
I was so excited about having this next group of guests on. I missed a whole segment in my last hour. Welcome back. It's RCR Mackling for Cloutier on a Thursday morning, hour 2. Some may know me, I've got a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. So when any opportunity comes to highlight the entrepreneurial spirit of Manitobans comes around, I like to jump all over that. And Jan Letterman, she is the president of Innovate Manitoba, a fantastic group in our province who lends a hand, some guidance in a major way to those that are creating opportunity, not only for themselves, but eventually a lot of other Manitobans, right, Jan?
Yeah, that's right, Gord. We've helped a lot of companies refine their business model, refine their pitch, and at the end of the day, help them raise capital. And that's the key to what we're about. Now,
as someone who appeared in front of the Dragons about 7 years ago, I know that those venture capitalists they're not out to make friends. They have enough friends, they have enough money that they can buy friends if they don't have enough friends. And so the small talk really doesn't cut it with them, right? You've got, when you sit around the table with your friends and your family, you go, geez, I got this great idea for a business. They're all like, that's a great idea. Well, the only real way to find out if it's a great idea is to go to events, something like the Launchpad Boot Camp. And someone who's been through that successfully, I've got two gentlemen who've been successfully through this and subsequently gone on to create their own successful businesses. Todd Habich, founder of HD Petroleum, and Tom Tessier, founder of Solera Remote Data Inc. And Tom, I was looking at the video for your business now. Right. Where did that start? And maybe real quickly tell people what you do and what it is, and then how did it start?
Well, the genesis is for safety, for people that are traveling in the Arctic especially. I was with Spaceport Canada a number of years ago. Remember, we were launching rockets out of Churchill. And working with the Inuit there, you get to know them very well. And it became kind of a normal thing for them to talk about, yeah, we lost so-and-so a couple of years ago and so-and-so, because their grocery store were the Caribou out to the west in the Thelon River area. And from time to time, people would get lost or they would have a mishap and they would die out there and they'd have no way of locating them. And they basically said to me, you're the engineer from the south, build something that works.
And so you did.
I did.
And so has it worked out for you? Like, I mean, your company sells globally now.
Absolutely. We're on all 7 continents, and I mean including Antarctica.
That is fascinating.
Absolutely. You know, we've got everything from Antarctic explorers, and the National Science Foundation works at McMurdo using our devices, to the Canadian Forces with Canadian Rangers. And right here we have Snowman Manitoba. What a great bunch to work with. They're using them with the snowmobile groomers so that they have safety monitoring of their people real time, and also it helps them save money by making sure they know exactly how many kilometers have been groomed.
Now this is a specific use.
Yep.
I'm going to go and speak with Todd. Todd, HD Petroleum. My grandpa was my mentor in life. I lost him last year, but I know it was your grandpa, right? Was it your dad or your grandpa?
My grandfather, same thing. Grandpa passed away last year as well.
Oh, well, my condolences. I know
Likewise.
how hard it is to lose that relationship in your life, but he inspired you to do something pretty fantastic. HD Petroleum. Tell our listeners about that.
Well, grandfather, Gramps was a lifelong inventor and has made some fairly significant contributions. The most that he's most well known for is he invented the modern day axial flow rotary style combine that essentially
Yeah, that is cool.
So almost all combines are based on that design today, and from there, he worked in the road construction industry and developed a lot of equipment that is, to this day, is still in use in road construction. And back in the day, as the story goes, a lot of waste motor oil was used in road construction. And he always felt there must be a better use than just dumping it on our roads, and started tinkering, and over a period of about 20 years, developed a thing that was sort of a half-baked cake. And he brought it to me in the summer of 2006, dropped this old ratted folder on my desk and said, Todd, I got a project for you to look at here. I don't think I got the legs to see this one through. And that was this project.
So as we sit here, you're wearing the suit now. How many guys back at the shop, guys and gals working for you now, from Grandpa's idea to from that dusty folder, how many people are working in this concept now?
Directly employed here in Winnipeg part of our executive team would be there's 5 of us here in Winnipeg. And then the branch that goes out further, because there's not a lot of support for petroleum industry in Manitoba. We branch across Alberta into Montreal, Toronto, and then a fairly significant amount of effort done in Tulsa and Dallas. So there's a pretty broad reach of technology that we're drawing from. Now,
if there's 2 things inventors and entrepreneurs are, they're loyal. They're very passionate. And so is it frustrating that you weren't able to get the support that you needed to make this World Head HQ and do everything here in Manitoba? Don't want to put you on the spot with that, but is that a fair question?
It's a very good question, Greg. For me, anytime there's a positive, there's always a negative, sort of the yin and yang, the responsibility and the privilege in things. The advantage we had to being able to start and found in Manitoba is that no one knew who we were. We got to operate for about 3 years, almost 4 years under the radar, and got a significant amount of work done. Of course, the bad news is we were operating in Manitoba where nobody really could help us locally, and we had to reach out. So there was some added expenses to that. However, when we started this project, the oil patch in Alberta and in the United States was absolutely on fire. Nobody fell out of bed for less than $150,000 a year. So we had some economic advantages here that we were able to operate with that allowed us to get a very strong foothold on the technology and the game plan go forward, where we could utilize those first bootstrap dollars very effectively. And had we had to do it elsewhere, I'm not certain what the economics would have been. It would have been a lot more expensive and a lot more challenging.
So at some point between the Eureka, you didn't call it the Genesis conversation, and where we are today, lots of things obviously had to happen. Part of your adventure flows through Innovate Manitoba. Tell us about that, Tom, and how that made it from something you talked about on the deck on Saturday night after your 4th beer and all your friends going, you got to do something with that, to you doing something with it and becoming what it's become today. What role did Innovate Manitoba play in that?
Well, Innovate Manitoba really takes the people that have the ideas and links them up with the things you need to do to get your business started and running. So, for example, the Venture Challenge is what I was in last year. It was a really intense week where we had top entrepreneurial consultants really look at our pitch, and our pitch, of course, is built upon what our business model is and the problems we solve and how we do it and how we're going to make money doing it. And they really tear it apart, and they really say, look, you got to look at these reality things. As you mentioned, the dragons aren't interested in making more friends.
They don't like reality. They like validity.
Exactly. They want to see a real business plan and a real means of solving something that people will pay for. And a lot of good ideas out there don't get launched because they don't think this through. And this is a very valuable thing now with Manitoba. We have, for example, I'm also in ICTAM, which is Information Communication Technologies. So within that group, they're working with Innovate Manitoba. We have Startup Canada and Ramp Up Manitoba, which is also affiliated with Innovate Manitoba. So Innovate Manitoba, for me anyway, my experience has been the umbrella that brought me out into the networking in Manitoba, and really is what I see the center of the ecosystem here to really get the entrepreneurial spirit working.
Because that spirit's undeniable.
Absolutely. My agricultural background is where I started. I don't know anybody more entrepreneurial than farmers, right? And when I get into engineering and into technology, a lot of great ideas out there. Sometimes we just need some hand-holding and coaching to get us into the business side a little bit more. And Innovate Manitoba has opened the doors for me. It's really been awesome.
And the research I did on both your companies here, Todd and Tom, I would have had the idea that you had been in business forever, and you went through this 12 months ago. And for yourself, Todd, when did you go through the program?
The Innovate Manitoba, I believe I was the finalist in 2011.
Right.
Yep,
so we're only talking 24 months ago.
Yep.
I mean, so this is a real success story. How long has this been going on, Jan?
The Venture Challenge program itself has been running for 4 years now, I believe it is. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, Todd was a pretty seasoned entrepreneur, and as was Tom. And coming into the boot camp, I think they might have said, do I really want to take 3 days of my time and do this? It's a hard sell when you're out there trying to earn a buck. And to a person, they get into it and say, man, did I learn a lot.
It's one of those things, like one of those obligations where, you're walking out the door on Wednesday night and it's like, geez, I really don't want to do this tonight. Then you get up Thursday morning, you go, I wouldn't have missed that for too much in the world, right? Because when you're in the middle of it, sometimes you get those blinders on and you think you know exactly where you need to go.
Yep.
And it's good to have that smack of reality to say, hey, here's what you need to do. Fellas, we've got a whole green room full of other guests. I just want to give you, since you're so good at pitches, give folks other entrepreneurs who are, maybe struggling. Usually before that, where things go well, sometimes you encounter major catastrophe, or where you think, geez, I've got to walk away from this. Can you encourage some fellow entrepreneurs out there?
Absolutely. And not only can I do it now, I have been, and I know that two of the groups that were in the Launchpad event that happened last month were there because, not solely because of myself, but I strongly encourage them to be there. The success that we have had from that event has absolutely just allowed us to move forward. We took the 3 days and then the follow-on 2 days, and the information that we came out of there with, we've been able to capitalize, raised in Manitoba over $5 million in equity into our company, of which we're very proud of the progress we've been able to make with that. And it's that kind of direction and encouragement, as well as correction, that came from the Innovate Manitoba, the Launchpad event. And I have just simply said, if you have an idea, if you have a desire, and you think you've got something, go to the Launchpad event. But also go with the realization that they're not there to be your best friend. They will tell you the three mentors that are together, back together again, the same that I went through, were fantastic. One, Randy has the energy to drive the bus. Mark has real laser-like ideas when he sees that there is something either wrong or correct with what you're presenting. He doesn't speak that often. And Permjot from London is the typical British person who can tell you that your ideas are absolutely horrible. And yet you think he's just been your best friend the whole way through. And so, but at the end of the discussion with Permjot, you really have a good, clear understanding that I need to look at this from a much broader global perspective that they bring. So the three of them collectively are just a 1-2-3 punch that can really make or break your idea. If it breaks it, it's the best favor they can do for you, because it gets you corrected early. And if they help you make it, we contribute a very large portion of our success to the Launchpad event and the tools that it gave us to come away from that event with.
Todd Habich, founder of HD Petroleum, that's his voice. Tom Tessier, I'm going to ask you a similar question. What advice do you give? Because I'm going to suspect you've become a little bit of a mentor to other entrepreneurs as well.
Well, as I mentioned, with the networking opportunities, you meet a lot of new entrepreneurs. For example, the last Venture Challenge or boot camp that Innovate Manitoba had, I had the pleasure of sitting in on for a little while and met some of the new people. Again, yes, I say to people, if you've got a good idea, if you want to move forward and actually implement something, there's a great mentorship program within Manitoba now. As I mentioned, this ecosystem. Innovate Manitoba is a great place to start in terms of the connections, and also to attend the boot camps. As Jan was saying, there's really no cost. You can come in and see what's going on, get your whistle wet a bit to see what's going on, and start off on the route. For example, I'm also a member of AscentWorks, which is a community of entrepreneurs and artists, actually, who can build things in a makerspace, and then Ramp Up Manitoba is next door to that in the same facility, where you can start getting some mentorship in your business at the very, very start then you could basically move up to Innovate Manitoba when you start looking for venture capital and that sort of thing. I mean, it's all here. Just get involved. Innovate Manitoba is on the web. You can get hold of them, and that's a good start.
And like with so many things, it's just a matter of knowing where to go, right? We need help with a variety of different things in our lives, and it's just a matter of knowing where to go. Okay, I'm sold. I want to go to boot camp. I don't like boot camp, but I want to go. I need to go. Jan, how do I get involved if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to come to boot camp?
Well, for young entrepreneurs or old entrepreneurs starting out, we have 3 programs. We have a pitch day event, which occurs in October, November, and it's for anybody with an idea. You don't have to have a business. You don't have to have done it before. You can just come out and pitch your idea and get some very immediate, on-the-spot feedback as to whether it has any potential or not. If you're a serious entrepreneur and you want to make this thing fly, then we have a 3.5-day boot camp Launchpad that runs in May of every year. The top 6 companies from Launchpad go into the Venture Challenge. And in the Venture Challenge, you get the opportunity to present before venture funds and angel investors. And the prizes are trips to the Banff Venture Forum and the Canadian Financing Forum, which gets you in front of the top investors in North America. So it's access to capital. And, both Todd and Tom and some of the others, I mean, we've put, maybe 60 companies through the various programs, and we can point to some very direct results where they've raised money as a result of this experience.
So it's never too early to get ready for next May, and some of the groups and individuals we're going to talk to later on in the hour actually came through that process, that Launchpad process earlier.
This year, yeah.
And then they're going to be in the Venture Challenge coming up in June, right?
That's right. And then we also have a medical researcher. We have another program, Industry Connects, that we can talk about that's not so much related to the competition.
We'll take a break. We'll leave it there. And I want to thank Todd and Tom for taking time. You're obviously busy individuals. We appreciate you giving back.
Greg, thank you.
You bet. You're welcome.
You'll have to pardon the excitement in my voice. I just get excited when we talk about Manitobans making the most of who they are, who they want to be. We're talking about entrepreneurship. And Malcolm Gladwell, probably my favorite author, talks about connectors. And people who are connectors. And there are some people, that's their strength, is just finding people who should be talking to other people, just that kind of intermediary, right, that brings everyone together. And we're talking about Industry Connects. It's IMB, and that's the Innovation Manitoba. That's their newest program that has united academic researchers and firms seeking research assistance to develop research partnerships and learn about and initiate applications for federal funding at the same time. And this is a 3-part program, but what's so critical about this is you can make all the better mousetraps in the world if you want, but if there's nobody to buy them, Dean Staples, you're going to have a big pile of mousetraps in your garage, correct?
That's correct.
So talk about how your role, your work is with MTS, your strategic planning and emerging technology research specialist, right? That's your deal. So you are constantly on the outlook for these things, right?
We are, yeah. That title wraps around nicely around a card, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, where we sit and where we look at it, it's what is the impact that is actually going to be achieved at the end. You can have the greatest idea. You can actually position it however you want. You can actually see the opportunity. But if there's nobody on the other end to actually absorb it, accept it, fund it, support it, push it through, it's a very tough thing. And I mean, what we're talking about here is really about innovation, right? There's Industry Connect, there's Innovate Manitoba, but it's the actual fostering of innovation. And innovation is an extremely difficult thing to do. There are a ton of roadblocks that are actually in the way of successful innovation. You can have the greatest idea and have roadblocks all throughout, whether that's actually getting funding, which is an extremely difficult one, actually getting support, buy-in. But then let's take it from the entrepreneur who's on the outside to the entrepreneur who's on the inside. For instance, like myself, there are, sort of systems and processes that are in place that have been there for a long time that make decisions. So those things are other hurdles that are hard to overcome. So when you actually look at things like Industry Connect, they actually present an ecosystem of communication, an ecosystem of collaboration. And in a lot of times, it's not even the output of just the single technology, but it's actually overcoming some of the hurdles. One of your earlier guests, Tom, we met at Industry Connects. He was presenting for something on the left-hand side. When we were done talking, we actually looked at an opportunity that works for both of us on the right-hand side.
Wow.
And those things don't occur unless there's forums like Industry Connect. It's a platform for that communication.
There's networking going on out in my lobby right now.
There is.
Between 4 people that maybe, two of them know each other, but the other 2 don't. So we've brought them together here, and maybe they're having the first of many business meetings. But that's how business works organically, right? And I think we've maybe lost that in that technological age. I don't want to slam technology.
No, not at all.
But it's still about pressing flesh and meeting human beings.
For sure. But I mean, take a look at where innovation is today and where it wasn't a couple of years ago, right? Take a look at, the emergence of networks and the bandwidth that's there and the growth of those networks. So there's higher capacity for more applications. Take a look at devices, right? Take a look at the capability set. And you and I were talking about the new Microsoft One Box.
Right.
Take a look at the capabilities that are built in there. So now the ability to innovate there has actually been, from a technology perspective, more open for us. You can actually innovate more today than you could a few years ago. So you're starting to see innovation change. The actual demographic of where innovation is occurring is changing. So as you have a younger population that's actually doing that, and you're talking about connecting out here in the hall. I'm talking to guys that are half my age, and they're coming up with these wonderful ideas, and they actually are facing roadblocks. How do we get into talking with industry? How do we actually, so they're not sitting in their isolated little spot somewhere, in the exchange, cranking out the code, but they actually need a platform to connect. And as soon as they make that connection, it actually opens up a whole different world of opportunity, whether that's industry like us with MTS, other partners, or even academia.
Anurag Srivastav, I got it there. And you know this all too well, right? And it's about navigating these waters. I always talk about calling an expert, right? There's some things I can fix at home, and there are some things I'm just not touching. And it makes sense at a certain point. You may be the expert in the technology you've created, but in order to share it with the rest of the world, you need help.
Exactly, that's so true. As Dean has put it so correctly, like you can have the innovation, but you need tools to bring it to common mass. And when we do research, it's entirely a different world. It's our lab, and lab is our whole world, right? So you spend like 18 hours a day sometimes doing certain experiments. So here we have a wonderful innovation and a wonderful idea. But to translate it into a product, you need support. And that's where, as you were talking about connectors, so there comes in Innovate Manitoba when they had this program, Industry Connect. That's when I realized research is something very different than when actually you take that product and try to market it. It's altogether a different ball game there. And I really appreciate the kind of program that you started, Jan. That's when I got connected to industry like CanGene, and we had their director of pipeline research, and he got interested into the product. So you need that kind of connection, and those kind of connections you can only get in platform like Innovate Manitoba.
And when you're in that isolation, you kind of get that sense, somebody else must be doing this already. And then you realize by speaking with people and meeting people, go, I've been in the industry for 15 years. I've never, ever heard of this before. Then you've got something, right, Jan?
Yeah.
How often does that happen where, we're all human, right? We have those moments of self-doubt. We have to conquer them.
Absolutely. And if I could summarize what Innovate Manitoba does in a single phrase, it would be to remove the barriers to innovation success. And that comes at various points. So on the Industry Connects program, we noticed that Manitoba companies, small and medium-sized enterprises, weren't doing as much R&D as the rest of the country. And researchers at our post-secondary institutions weren't commercializing their research as much as they might elsewhere. And we said, okay, we can do something about that. So we partnered with the University of Manitoba, University of Winnipeg, Red River College, and others, and said, let's develop programs that can link researchers to industry, help industry. How do they frame their business problem as a research issue, and use our researchers to address their business problems?
The biggest criticism I hear typically is, well, we're not doing enough to fuel this spirit, right? It's not that we're maybe not doing enough. It's that maybe not enough of us know what's going on and where to look. Dean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and there are a lot of forums that, you wish were there to have this actually incubate and succeed. And you're talking about, oh, hey, I have a great idea, but gosh, maybe there's these other people that have it. Well, maybe there is. But when I have that forum, if I can meet with those people, and now all of a sudden my small little idea and your small little idea come together and become a bigger idea, and we actually work and collaborate together, that's where that sort of synthesis occurs, and that's what's needed. And so I think innovation is out there. There's a lot of discussion about it, but there's not necessarily the right channels to actually get it to the end goal, right? To fruition, to commercialization, to implementation, and that is a challenge.
Because you're a guy that sees how that happens, right? So that's your piece in this puzzle. I'm guessing is you're the guy that has seen the brick turn into something that's part of something larger and something bigger, and you know how to navigate those waters to make that happen.
Yeah, I've been fortunate in my career to be working on the brick before the brick was the brick, and actually see the life cycle that it took for that brick to come to fruition of where it is today. And it is a challenge. There's a lot of hurdles, right? There's change of industry, there's change in demographics, there's change in the business model that supports it. There's a lot of hurdles for that innovative idea to actually make it to fruition. The hard part is when you're innovating and you're actually going over each one of those hurdles and you get pushed down, do you have the actual strength to take it and go over that hurdle? Because if you do, that's where true innovation and success occurs.
Anurag, you've been pushed back over some of those hurdles over the years?
Yes, actually, we have this wonderful product, right? It's basically a blood test for colorectal cancer screening. And the current tests that are available in the market are either invasive or non-specific invasive, like colonoscopy. It's an invasive test. And, in Manitoba itself, the uptake was around 15%. And everyone over the age of 50, they have to undergo for a screening test.
Think of the money the province is spending on colonoscopies alone.
Exactly. So colonoscopy is going to cost you around like $2,500 to $3,000, and so we need to have a test which is quite simple, like blood test. We developed that, but we need funds to actually do clinical trials and stuff, and we don't get that. So that's where we think that Innovate Manitoba plays a very vital role, bringing industry and researchers together.
Well, the platform,
and as well as granting agencies, so they get to know your research well.
Well, the platforms for that too, though, it actually gives you a voice to be heard into a larger spectrum, right?
Exactly.
And if you're just sitting over to the side doing your research and go, gosh, I have this wonderful idea, look at me, what I can do, and hey, I can revolutionize healthcare, or I can change the model. If you don't have that voice heard and there's not a platform for it, it just becomes an isolated instance. And it's a very difficult thing to move forward. Platforms like, the programs that Innovate Manitoba have, and like Industry Connects, allow those conversations to occur and to make those connections.
Like University of Winnipeg is fully supportive of this idea, but we need a platform like Innovate Manitoba to showcase that research.
Outstanding conversation. Gentlemen, thank you for what you do. Best of luck in bringing this to the mainstream, and hopefully we're doing some connecting here this morning on 680 CJOB.
Richard Cloutier reports with guest host Greg Macklin on 680 CJOB.
We're talking with Innovate Manitoba. We're talking about the Venture Challenge. We're working towards this. Is it June 15, Jan?
19.
June 19. My memory's good. It's just not, it's not a steel trap. But we're talking with guys who are making better steel traps, better mouse traps. And Bryce North, I got to tell you, man, I'm an old restaurant guy, and advertising is always a key to success in a restaurant business. And there are new innovative ways that have been happening for years in terms of capturing people who are in restaurants, and you came up with one.
Absolutely. So our company's called AdVolve Media, and we've created this really interactive advertising platform, and the product we've done with that is called a Mirage Mirror. So let me paint a picture for you here. After you're eating in the restaurant, you go to the washroom to wash your hands, and you actually approach the mirror, and the mirror literally starts transforming to moving digital advertisements. So what's really cool about this is that when you're standing there, things start popping around your peripheral view. You don't block your reflection, but it's a really surprising, dreamlike feeling. You can reach out and almost touch the ad. And when you walk away, it vanishes back to a perfect mirror. Now, we actually can track how long people stand in front and what ad they interact with.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of cool software and analytics behind there that we feed the advertiser. We can prove directly how many people have viewed that advertisement.
And isn't that the beauty of technology, right? We can validation is so key in terms of what we can do. Guessing and promising is one thing, but when you can show somebody a graph, here's what your ad has done, it's looking pretty good.
You know, that's the reason advertisers are going to online model. You do pay-per-click, your pay-per-impression. It's the fact that they actually can improve these impressions and they can have direct correlation with that. Traditional media these days, your radio, your bus benches, and your. I'm sorry. Radio is. You're really packed away, right? I mean, let's get to a point. We don't know how many listeners are listening, right?
That's right.
So who's paying attention? So that's why the online model is very attractive. We're trying to do that bridge and that. Fix that gap between the online media and with your traditional media.
I was just teasing you a little bit there, Bryce. Dustin, Schedule Aid, that was at the Launchpad event earlier this year.
That's right.
So now you're going to be part of the Venture Challenge as well?
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about Schedule Aid. I need lots of help in keeping my schedule. You got something that can help me or what?
Not really going to be able to help you out. What Schedule Aid is a platform as a service that bolts on to existing scheduling companies. So practice management and business management software, and trickles down to their users, which are doctors, dentists, chiropractors, hair salons, and so forth. And our system actually uses logic to recognize gaps in your schedule upcoming, and then figure out what services you offer that could be promoted, and start the process automatically of promoting those services through various channels internally with your client or patient base, or externally using paid mediums like Facebook and Twitter and so forth, and organic mediums like your social following.
If I'm following you correctly, it recognizes holes in my inventory, or I've got inventory of time that aren't being used.
That's right.
And so it automatically, as opposed to just always advertising, you're advertising around when you actually can accommodate a customer or a client.
Right. And then another use case is if you're a hairstylist and somebody cancels 24 hours in advance, you're put in a bit of a spot. Our system recognizes that, whether you're open or closed, whether you know about it or not.
Right.
And starts the process of automatically capturing a new customer for you. So it's about saving you the money that you're losing. It's about streamlining your administrative process and making you money overall.
Jan, there's nothing... Two brilliant ideas.
Absolutely.
I can see why you had a hard time picking 6. In fact, you couldn't pick 6, you picked 7.
Yeah, it was the first time that's ever happened at the boot camp. We typically pick 6 companies that go forward to the Venture Challenge competition. This year, that competition is on June 19th. This year, we had to pick 7. They couldn't decide. So on June 19th, the top 6 companies from the boot camp actually do their pitches before a panel of venture capital and angel investors, and it's open to the public. So you can come on the 19th at 8 in the morning from 8 to noon and hear these companies pitch their ideas.
Where do we go? Where is that going to happen?
The Fort Garry Hotel.
Oh, great. A great venue on top of it.
Absolutely. And then at noon, there's a luncheon, an awards presentation, and we have 2 keynote speakers, an author from Silicon Valley who knows entrepreneurship backwards and forwards, and a guy from Calgary, Kip Fife, who has had 2 businesses, developed a product that was sold to Garmin, a wearable device to monitor your heart rate and that kind of thing. He's now developing another product. He's very, very experienced and seasoned serial entrepreneur. So it should be a great event.
Bryce, what got you started, not necessarily with this product, but in terms of entrepreneurship? When did you know that you were going to go down this road?
I love this question here. So really back when I was just starting university, I'm not going to lie, my first university course, I went to electrical engineering. That didn't quite work out for me well. And I decided right after that, the business route is a little more for me. And before I even went to university, I started trying to start a small company with my mother. And so she kind of directed me that way, and that kind of gave me the thirst and the hunger to my business courses. And I had 2 other companies throughout university that gave me the taste for that. And then my company, Advolve, just really formed from that.
And it's funny because a lot of it does come from our parents. My parents were both very entrepreneurial and kind of guided us that way. Dustin, you're nodding your head in agreement on this one. Before we let you fly, Dustin, what I wanted to ask you was, you haven't even attended the Venture Challenge yet, but I'm going to guess this is already done wonders in terms of you taking your venture to the next step.
Exactly. I'm a bit of a poster child for the community here right now that's been happening in Winnipeg. I started with this idea, scrubbed it a little bit at a Ramp Up Manitoba meetup. From there,
you mean cleaned it up a little bit?
Scrubbed it. I got some very honest feedback.
Right.
And I took it there to a Ramp Up weekend and was fortunate enough to win that event, and that gave me a lot of validation to move forward. From there, I went to Pitch Day through Innovate Manitoba and got the experience of pitching a crowd and for real investors, and got a lot of good feedback there as well. Moved into the Ramp Up Manitoba Coast space, which I'm now working full time with my developers, to the Launchpad event, and now I'm on to Venture Challenge as well.
Wow, that's just so exciting to hear you guys all getting connected, guys and gals getting connected with the people really that can take you where you want to go, right? Because it's an intimidating, you're sitting at home, you got this idea, it's like, well, how do I get this to the masses? And except for that commercial that comes on, if you have a great idea, dial 1-800, there's not a whole lot out there, right, Jan? Like,
that's right.
This replaces that to a great extent, and just takes it so much further.
Yeah, we were trying to take away those barriers and fill the gaps with supports.
We'll take our last break. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up. Dustin, Bryce, best of luck in the Venture Challenge.
Thank you so much.